Dear gentlemen, you are the ex-president of EFRP. You are the new president. Congratulations for your elections. Following the discussions today in the EFRP Congress, which do you think are the top issues for the private pension providers? Which will be the priorities in the next period?
Okay. Well, I think in the EFRP we would see it from a number of different perspectives. In the context of the Green Paper report, we have already published our response, and our response clearly says the system itself needs protection. We are governed by a number of fundamental principles: security, adequacy. Adequacy is extremely important because it's not important just to have a pension, it's important to have a real pension, something that's of value. Affordability within the system is very, very important to us, and I think very important to most of the employers, because what we're speaking of is generally a work-related pension system, and therefore it has to be cognizant of the remuneration efforts of employers when it's calculating how much security we get for the amount of money that we pay in. Sustainability in the long term includes not just the private sector and the second pillar or supplementary pensions, but also the first pillar. So the importance of the debt crisis that we're facing in the EU at the moment proves to us that the sustainability of the first pillar is under some threat. Between the debt crisis and our ageing population, we have to address the sustainability of the first pillar, and one sure, sound way of addressing it is to encourage broader supplementary pensions. So we're hoping that the EU can point in a direction that will increase coverage beyond the levels that it's currently at, and give access to the 60% of the European workforce that don't have access to supplementary pensions. So for us, I think they would be the major consideration. Obviously, there's reform agendas already underway, and Angel, through his presidency, would have dealt with some of those, particularly in the CEEC countries. I think, Angel, you'd probably be able to reflect best what our policy has been on that.
Yes, well, as Patrick has mentioned, I think that we have tried to promote private pension provision around the EU, not only in the Western countries, but also now in the CEEC countries, where the situation now is quite dangerous. I think that we have that the European Commission should establish some principles that these countries should follow in order not to scale back the reforms, because at the end, if that should be in order to solve a shorter problem. However, on the long-term problem, the issue, as Patrick mentioned before, affordability should not be achieved. So it's important that the system should be affordable, but at the same time sustainable. And this is a situation that has to be coped by the government. So at the end, as this aging population process is going on, I think that the private system should be reinforced and clearly promoted. Otherwise, we should not try to cover the gap that the public system is going to lose, and otherwise the retirement benefit should be decreased in detrimental for the workers. So this is a moment that the European Commission, of course, cannot go into more detail rather than principles, because they are competence of the member state. But however, these principles should be established, and at the same time, the European Commission should take into account that the sustainability of the public finances should be in danger if the government should not be introduced reform on the pay-as-you-go system and in another way to promote the private system. And coming back again to the CEEC countries, I think that should be important that the accounting method of calculation in order to calculate the deficit should be clearly introduced a flexible way, because otherwise these countries could be forced to introduce the reforms that we are seeing now, or even to frozen the contributions. And of course, that should be a very bad signal to the Western countries in order not to introduce reforms that are needed on the public systems.
So can we say that the CE situation right now in this regard can be an alarm signal for the Western countries and an example?
I think so, and I think it's important to recognize that the Commission has recognized this problem also and is looking to address it to make sure that there isn't double counting. But we do have the same issues, as you say, only in reverse in some of the other nations who have already funded some public sector pensions in a funded way. We need to ensure the security of that pre-funding. We don't wish to see pre-funding, which has already been accrued over 20 and 30-year period, to be taken back and to switch the liabilities onto a pay-as-you-go basis. Sustainability has to be the outcome of this green paper process, whether that applies solely and exclusively to the first pillar or to the second pillar. To my mind, it has to be across both.